The human stood before the final door, bathed in crimson light. His heart pounded so violently he thought it might burst. The vault's voice pressed against his very soul. "Speak. Will you claim the Emperor's throne?" Behind him the guardians shouted in fury and fear. "Do not answer. You are not of the blood. The throne is not yours." Their weapons blazed, but none dared strike. They too felt the vault's power holding them still, waiting for his decision. The man's throat tightened. He was no emperor, no ruler, no conqueror. He was just a broken human, stranded far from his world. Yet as he looked at the endless symbols burning across the walls, he understood the truth. This trial was never about blood. It was about will. He drew a shaky breath. "I do not seek power," he said. His voice trembled, but it carried across the chamber. "I seek survival, peace. If claiming the throne means protecting more lives than destroying them, then yes, I accept." The chamber fell silent. Then the vault roared to life. The crimson light flared to gold, flooding the halls with brilliance. The final door split open, revealing not a throne of metal but a vast chamber of machines, their cores blazing like newborn suns. The energy inside was overwhelming, a storm of creation itself. With a single thought, the human felt he could command worlds. The guardians fell to their knees, armor clashing against the floor. Their leader lowered his weapon and bowed his head. "The vault has chosen. The Emperor's will lives in you now." The humans swallowed hard. The weight of their words pressed down heavier than any weapon. He had not just opened the vault, he had inherited its legacy. But before he could speak, alarms blared through the chamber. The golden light twisted, shadows tearing across the walls. The Emperor's hologram appeared one last time, his face grim. "You must understand," the Emperor's voice thundered. "The vault was never meant to remain closed forever. By opening it, you have awakened not only its gifts, but its enemies." The machines around him stirred, their cores spinning faster. Somewhere deep within the structure, a distant rumble grew into a deafening roar. The human's breath caught. "Enemies? What enemies?" The hologram's eyes blazed. "The ones I sealed away. The ones this vault was built to contain." The ground shook violently. Cracks split the metallic floor. From the darkness beneath, something vast began to rise. Claws of obsidian metal, eyes burning with endless rage. The guardians screamed in terror. The vault had not given them treasure. It had given them war. The human gritted his teeth, staring into the abyss as the creature rose higher, blotting out the golden light. He had asked the question that no one dared. He had claimed the Emperor's throne. Now he would face the Emperor's greatest enemy, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The chamber thundered with energy as the vault sealed shut, trapping them all inside. The runes along the walls blazed crimson, casting long shadows across the Guardian's armor. The human stood frozen, his breath quick and shallow. He could feel the vault watching him, as though every symbol, every flicker of light carried a pair of unseen eyes. Then from the farthest wall, a shape began to form. It shimmered like smoke before hardening into the image of a man, tall, regal, clad in robes of silver and black. His face bore the mark of a crown not worn but embedded into flesh. It was the Emperor. The Guardians fell to their knees at once, their weapons lowering in reverence. Their voices shook in unison, "My Emperor." But the hologram did not look at them. Its gaze fixed only on the human. "If you are here," the Emperor's voice boomed, heavy and commanding, "then I am long dead, and the galaxy has forgotten my rule." The human staggered back. His throat tightened, but he managed to whisper, "You're alive?" The hologram shook its head. "No, only my message remains. My vault is not a treasury. It is not meant for my heirs. It is a test." The Guardians glanced at one another, confusion breaking their discipline. A test, that was never part of their creed. They had been told only to guard, never to enter, never to question. The Emperor continued, his voice cutting through the silence. "Power must never be inherited. It must be earned. My blood alone cannot decide the future of empires. That is why the vault carries an override, an emergency code." The human's chest tightened. His words, the desperate question he had asked, were not an accident. They had been waiting for him. You, stranger, the Emperor's eyes seemed to pierce into him, have triggered what no heir could. You dared to ask, and so the trials begin. The walls shifted violently. Sections of the chamber split apart, rearranging into towering gateways of light. Each passage pulsed with energy, leading deeper into the vault's heart. The guardians rose to their feet, uncertain now. Their leader clenched his weapon, his voice cracking. We were told only the bloodline could pass. We were told this was sacred. The hologram turned its gaze to them, unyielding. Your emperor never lied. The bloodline could open the vault, but only a questioner, only one who breaks silence, could awaken it. The guardians faltered. Their faith had been shattered. The truth they had lived by was nothing more than half a story. The human swallowed hard. And if I fail these trials? The Emperor's image dimmed, its voice like thunder fading into storm. Then the vault will not only kill you, it will consume your world. The chamber shook violently. The gateways flared open, their light blinding. The human had no choice. To step forward meant death. To turn back meant doom for all. He took a breath and walked into the light. The human stepped into the light. Instantly, the air thickened, pressing against his skin like molten iron. The world around him shifted, walls bending and stretching as though alive. When the brightness faded, he found himself standing in a vast chamber unlike anything he had ever seen. The floor was a mirror of liquid metal, rippling under his boots. Above him, constellations shimmered, yet they were not stars, but shifting patterns of symbols glowing in fiery red. The chamber pulsed like a living heart. A voice filled the void, deep and unyielding. Trial 1. The measure of courage. The liquid floor split apart, revealing a chasm of endless darkness. From the shadows rose creatures, beasts shaped from smoke and fire, their bodies twisted, their eyes burning like molten coals. They were not real. Yet the pain they could inflict would be. The man's breath quickened. His body screamed to run, but there was nowhere to go. The voice thundered again. Courage is not absence of fear. It is action despite it. The first beast lunged, its claws cutting through the air. Instinct took over. The man rolled aside, his hands gripping a shard of glowing crystal from the floor. He struck wildly, and to his shock the beast howled before dissolving into ash. But more came. 10, 20, a storm of fire and teeth. His muscles ached, his lungs burned, yet he fought, each strike tearing his strength away. Finally, the last creature crumbled into smoke. The chasm sealed. The floor stilled. The voice returned. Trial 2. The measure of mercy. The chamber shifted again. Now he stood in a narrow hall. At its end lay a child, fragile, trembling, eyes filled with terror. But beside the child stood one of the guardians, bound in chains, his armor cracked, his body bleeding. The voice echoed, "Only one may live. Choose." The human's chest tightened. He could save the child, or he could free the guardian, an enemy who moments ago threatened his life. The guardians outside would see his choice. Their judgment would follow. He closed his eyes. He thought of every war, every battle fought not with strength but with compassion. His decision came like a whisper. He cut the chains. The guardian collapsed, stunned. The child faded into light, nothing but an illusion. The voice spoke, softer this time. Mercy is strength disguised as weakness. The hall vanished. He fell to his knees in another chamber, smaller, darker. A final doorway loomed before him, glowing with violent red light. The voice whispered, "Final trial, the measure of destiny." Speak your answer. Will you claim the Emperor's throne, or turn away? The human froze, sweat dripping down his face. This was the choice that would decide not only his life, but the fate of empires. Behind him the guardians shouted, their voices echoing through the vault. "Do not answer. It is forbidden." But the door pulsed, waiting, demanding, his lips parted, trembling on the edge of destiny. The vault screamed as it stirred to life. Its colossal doors, carved with alien runes, glowed brighter than the stars above. For 1,000 years, nothing had ever moved them. Now at the voice of a single human, they trembled. The guardians, once unshakable, recoiled. Their armor clattered as they raised weapons older than empires, but even their discipline cracked. The leader's voice, rough as thunder, broke the silence. This cannot be. The vault does not answer outsiders, yet the evidence was undeniable. The door pulsed with light, each rune shifting into new patterns, forming codes that no alien had ever witnessed. The ground split in jagged lines, dust and fire spilling upward as if the planet itself feared what was coming. The human staggered back, his hands trembling, not from fear but from awe. He whispered to himself, barely audible, "I didn't do anything, I just asked." The vault answered him again. This time it was not only sound but voice. A low, resonant tone carried words across the plain. "Emergency protocol engaged. Stand by." The Guardian's eyes widened. That phrase belonged to the Emperor alone. For centuries they had trained to kill anyone who dared approach, but never had the vault betrayed them with speech. The human stepped forward, his shadow stretching across the glowing symbols. "If it's listening to me," he said, his voice steady, "then maybe you've been guarding it for the wrong person." The Guardians bristled. "You insult the blood of the Emperor!" The leader growled, his weapon humming as energy surged. "No human can carry his will." Before the man could reply, the ground beneath them split open with a violent crack. From the chasm rose pillars of light, beams of golden fire reaching toward the heavens. The air shook with heat and energy, distorting everything around them. The human shielded his eyes, but through the glare he saw movement, shadows crawling within the door, shapes trying to press outward as though alive. His chest tightened. This was no ordinary vault. It wasn't just storage, it was something else. The Guardians staggered as the beams engulfed them. They dropped to their knees, not out of weakness, but out of instinct. To them this was sacred, terrifying, a sign that the Emperor's design had awakened again. The leader lowered his weapon, his voice trembling for the first time. "It answers you." "But why?" The human shook his head. "I don't know. Maybe because I asked a question no one else dared to ask." His words sounded small against the thunder of the vault, but they carried truth. The door split wider, a blinding light spilling through the cracks. A hot wind rushed across the plain, carrying the scent of metal and ash. And then, footsteps. From within the vault, something moved. Heavy, deliberate, echoing like drums in the dark. The Guardians turned in unison, weapons raised once more. The human froze, his heart pounding. The vault wasn't just opening, it was letting something out. The vault groaned as its doors pushed wider, spilling out waves of golden light. The plane shook with every movement, a deep grinding sound like the heart of a planet awakening after eternal sleep. Dust swirled into the air, carried on hot winds that smelled of metal, ash, and something older, something alien. The human squinted against the radiance. Through the blinding glow he saw long corridors stretching inward, carved with symbols that pulsed as though alive. They didn't look like decorations. They looked like veins carrying energy deeper into the structure. For centuries, the galaxy believed the vault contained treasure, gold, jewels, priceless artifacts. But as the light grew clearer, he realized the truth. This was no treasury. It was a machine. Rows of towering constructs lined the walls, each encased in crystalline stasis. Some resembled weapons, cannons large enough to break moons. Others were stranger, elegant skeletal devices with glowing cores that hummed like living hearts. Between them lay slabs etched with alien scripts, their surfaces shifting like flowing water. The Guardians dropped to one knee, their voices rising in a chant so low it shook the air. They had trained to protect the vault, but even they had never seen inside. For them, this was holy ground. The human stepped forward cautiously. His boots echoed on the smooth floor, the sound swallowed by the vastness around him. His hands trembled, not from fear but from the overwhelming sense that history itself was unraveling before his eyes. "This isn't treasure," he whispered. "This is power." The guardians said nothing. Their eyes glowed faintly in the reflection of the golden light. One of them finally spoke, his voice trembling despite his size. "These are the gifts of the Emperor. Machines to shape stars, weapons to end empires," the human turned. "Then why lock them away?" No answer came. Only silence, broken by the steady hum of the vault's heartbeat. Then, the shadow. At the far end of the corridor, movement rippled. A figure emerged, slow and deliberate, its body shimmering like liquid metal. Its form shifted as though unfinished, its shape caught between man and machine. The human froze. The guardians stepped back, unease flickering in their movements. This was not part of their training. This was something older, something even they feared. The figure raised its head, eyes like burning suns flickered to life. Its voice echoed from everywhere at once, deep and mechanical. Protocol engaged. Intruder verified. Trial sequence initiated. The vault responded instantly. Doors slammed shut behind them with a thunderous boom, trapping everyone inside. The runes along the walls blazed red. The hum of the machines rose into a roar, filling the chamber with deafening power. The guardians turned their weapons toward the human, their instincts warring with their fear. "You have brought this upon us," their leader hissed. The man's chest tightened, his heart pounding like a drum. He wanted to deny it, to insist he never meant for this, but he knew the truth. The vault hadn't just opened. It had chosen. And now, the trials had begun. For thousands of years, the vault of the Emperor stood untouched. It was not a simple door. It was a colossal wall of alien metal, taller than mountains, carved with glowing runes that never faded. The people of the galaxy called it the Eternal Lock. No blade, no fire, no weapon ever scratched its surface. Armies tried to break it. Kings sacrificed millions of soldiers. Even the most advanced technology failed. And every time someone dared to challenge the vault, the Guardians struck them down. The Guardians were not men. They were towering alien warriors bred for one purpose: to protect the Emperor's secret. They wore dark armor that shimmered under the rune's glow, and their eyes burned with the memory of countless battles. They did not need food nor sleep. For centuries they stood watch, waiting for the one who could open the vault. The truth was known only in whispers. The vault could only be unlocked by the Emperor's DNA, and the Emperor had been dead for 1,000 years. Across the galaxy, the vault became a story, a legend, a warning. It was said that inside lay treasures beyond imagination. Machines that could move planets, weapons that could bend stars, and knowledge powerful enough to build or destroy civilizations. But no one would ever see it. The key was gone, sealed in bloodlines long buried, and so the galaxy moved on. Empires rose and fell, wars began and ended, but the vault remained, silent, waiting. Then came the night the skies changed. A storm of fire lit the heavens above the vault. A ship, small, fragile, human, crashed down on the barren plain. The Guardians watched from their posts. They had seen many intruders before. None had survived. Smoke curled upward as the wreckage split apart. From the flames stepped a figure. Not a soldier. Not a king. A man, thin, weary, with nothing but determination in his eyes. The Guardians stirred, their weapons gleaming in the strange light. Another fool, they thought. Another death to be written in silence. But this man did not raise a weapon. He did not bow nor beg. He lifted his head to the colossal door, his gaze fixed on the glowing runes. And in a voice steady but quiet, he asked a question no one in all of history had ever asked. What about the emergency code? The plane fell silent. Even the wind seemed to vanish. The Guardians froze, uncertain. For the first time in 1,000 years, the runes flickered. Their glow deepened. A low vibration rippled across the ground. The vault was listening. The man did not know it yet, but with those 6 words, he had broken the silence of centuries. Something ancient had awakened, and the Emperor's secret was about to be revealed. The Guardians had seen countless intruders fall before the vault, yet this one was different. He was not armored, not armed, not part of a great army. He was only a man, fragile, breathing hard, carrying the dust of 100 battles he had never meant to fight. His ship had crashed like so many others before, but he did not tremble as he stepped from the wreckage. The alien warriors studied him with cold curiosity. Their armor gleamed like obsidian under the rune's glow. Their hands tightened on ancient weapons humming with energy, ready to cut him down. To them he was just another trespasser who would leave no trace but ash. Yet when he raised his eyes to the door there was no fear, only a strange kind of calm. He spoke words no warrior, no scholar, no emperor's descendant had ever dared to voice. What about the emergency code? For a heartbeat nothing happened. The air itself seemed to stop. Then the runes shimmered brighter, burning like starlight etched into the metal. The ground rumbled. A deep vibration spread outward, shaking the plane for miles. The Guardian stiffened. In 10 centuries of silence, the vault had never answered to anyone. But now, because of a human, an outsider, it stirred. The man stumbled back, eyes wide, as the colossal surface pulsed with golden light. He had spoken without knowledge, without any plan. It had been only a desperate thought, yet something ancient had listened. Impossible, one guardian whispered, though their kind had no word for fear until now. The man touched the scarred side of his helmet. His voice was raw, heavy with exhaustion. I don't even know why I said it, but it hurt me, didn't it? The vault trembled again. The runes swirled in patterns never seen before, rearranging like living fire. The sound was deafening, like mountains grinding against each other. The guardians pointed their weapons at him. You are not of the bloodline, their leader growled. His voice was like thunder breaking stone. You should not be here. I know, the man said simply. His chest rose and fell, his body broken from the crash, yet his gaze remained steady on the massive door. But if it's listening to me, then maybe I'm meant to be here. A silence stretched, heavy and sharp. Then the vault spoke, not in words but in sound, low, resonant, ancient. It echoed inside their bones. Code recognized. The guardians fell back in shock. The door groaned, splitting along lines of golden fire. Dust and heat poured from the cracks as the great lock began to open for the first time in living memory. The man shielded his eyes, his heart hammering. He had asked one question, and changed the destiny of the galaxy. The vault was opening, and what waited inside had been sealed away for a reason.